Hello, folks. Thanks for tuning in to TD Talks. I'm your host, Fiduciary Investment Advisor Taylor Davis. Today is Friday, February 20th, 2026, and today TD Talks zoom out. Sometimes you got to zoom out. I was recently meeting with an investor who has quite a bit of concentration of wealth in company stock. This is natural because he's heavily compensated via company stock. And one of his major goals is to not be so concentrated in that company stock and have kind of intermittent diversifications and divestitures over time to reduce that level of concentration. He doesn't like it for the prospect of retirement income just due to the nature of the volatility of an individual stock and it being a large portion of wealth. And we were meeting and he was a little down. He's done some diversifications, but it's still small diversifications relative to the overall size of that stock in relation to his overall wealth. Then he was a little down, and he was also telling me a little bit about some issues that he's had at work, some of the workload that's been put on, and people on the team not performing, and this kind of infighting, and it just seemed overall down about the chart, down about the work life balance and relationships within work. And I said, I think we need to zoom out. Let's zoom out a little bit. Sometimes I got to zoom out. And so I said, pull up the chart that you're looking at. Share your screen and show me which chart you're looking at. And he was looking at a 3-month chart. And I said, okay, click the 5-year chart for me, or click the 10-year chart for me. He clicked 10-year. And I said, look at this time 6 years ago when the stock did the exact same thing it's doing right now, and then look at what happened after that. Now, it's no guarantee of the future, but it does show you what's possible, and it shows you that you've been through this before. You just haven't felt this feeling in a while. Think back over your career. He's been working professionally in his industry for, I think, 30 years now. And I said, is this the first time you've ever experienced, having a workload increased on you, a team that's not working cohesively and infighting happening and deadlines approaching? And is that the first time it's happened? He goes, oh, no, that's happened a bunch. I said, when was the last time? He says, probably about 3 years ago. And I said, yeah, I remember us talking about that. And then what happened? And he said, well, over time, we worked more cohesively with the team, had a little bit better accountability and a lot better communication, and things ironed out. And we were able to communicate as well with the company about the how to have reasonable expectations for the team. And things got ironed out and they worked out from there. And I said, right. So whether it be looking at your chart or looking at your work experience right now, let's zoom out a bit. Let's not be so focused on the here and now with such a tight lens. We need to take the blinders off a little bit so we can see what's around us. Zoom out. So if you're feeling that today, there's a lot going on in the markets today. There's this big decision that came down from the Supreme Court on tariffs. Some companies are doing really, really well because of it. Some companies are struggling. The uncertainty about the technicalities of the ruling and how it, could disable some tariffs, but also allow for others if they just call it a different thing. I don't know. It'll sort out, it'll shake out. There's the prospect of, potential provocation and action with Iran. There's a lot going on. Russia and Ukraine is still not over. That could flare up at any moment. There's a lot of things going on in the big macro scheme of the world. And then you probably also have micro things going on. You may have a health issue that's bothering you. You may have a child that you're struggling with. You may have a colleague that you're not working well with. I want to remind you to zoom out, whether you're looking at your chart or you're looking at your My Chart, your health results, whatever it is you're looking at. Sometimes you just got to zoom out so you can go, okay, I've been here before. I just haven't felt this in a while. This isn't new. And I can see beyond what happened after the last time I felt this feeling. So today's TD Talks has nothing to do with economics. I'm not talking the least bit of economics on this one because I think it's important because I ended that meeting with that investor and he said, I just feel better. We didn't go over one discussion of, um, the next quarter of markets or, tax filing coming up or anything like that. I said, well, let's schedule another session to do that. But I think it was important for us to go through that mental exercise of zooming out on what he was dealing with so that he could feel better. So I want to be able to walk through that and teach that a little bit today here on TD Talks so that each and every listener can understand that, think about what that guy was going through, apply it to maybe their own life. And in this recording of the TD Talks podcast, in this recording, maybe feeling a little bit better from applying it to your individual life, business, portfolio situation, whatever is going on. So thanks for tuning in today to TD Talks. You can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. See y'all soon. The views and opinions voiced in this podcast are solely the views and opinions of Taylor Davis and do not reflect the views or opinions of any other entity or organization. The content provided is for informational purposes only and is not meant to be specific investment advice for any individual. Please consult with your financial advisor to address your unique circumstances. Taylor Davis does not provide legal or tax advice.